Hello and welcome to another SkaredCast battle report. Today, over this swampland, we have Jason, who's come back to the studio, and he's brought his Salamander White Scars with a relic Scorpius, and I'm playing Dark Eldar, and more Dark Eldar. We're playing a mission that we're testing for the Path to Glory, 1650 points ITC. Let's begin. Okay, so let's start with the mission. The mission we have is Vanguard Strike, and there are 5 objectives on the board. We have 1 in each table quarter center. We have 1 bang in the middle. Starting on turn 2, each objective is worth 1 point to control. If a player gains 3 points, the game is over and a sudden death victory is won, which forces you to go for the objectives early on in the game and to sacrifice units in order to stop your opponent from gaining points. It also makes MSU do what they're supposed to do, not sit back and just shoot, but also go out and sacrifice their units. And it also poses a difficulty to Death Star armies, as they will have to split up and try and cover as much ground as possible. Jason is playing a Gladius Strike Force, a CAD, a simple CAD with Khan, White Scars detachment, 3 tactical units in Rhinos, 5-man strong, a little unit of Scouts and a Speeder with Bolters, the Relic Scorpius with the Ignore Cover Shells, and a Chaplain with the Hunter's Eye. He is also running some Cult Mechanicus Destroyers with Grav and the Flamers, and some Electro Priests with Khan in drop pods. Until the FAQ comes down, he's still doing that. And then we've got the Mechanicum guy with a command squad with Melters, and they're coming in. I have 3 formations. A Dark Eldar CAD led by Lamian with 4 Cabalite Warrior units, 3 Envenoms. I have 2 units of Scourge, 1 with Heat Lancers, 1 with Haywire Blasters. A Reaver Jetbike unit with Cluster Caltrops, and a Ravager with 3 Lancers that is deployed in the backfield. Then I have a Grotesquerie. I have 2 Grotesque units in Raiders, and I have a Homunculus with them, and the Archon is there as well. But the Archon is from the Purge Coterie, which is the starter box for the Dark Eldar. The Cabalite Warriors have been upgraded to Trueborn with 4 Blasters and a Haywire Grenade, and the Raider has a Lance. They are deep striking, as well as the Reaver Jetbikes with Cluster Caltrops on the flank. A lot of Dark Eldar. My Warlord trait is Knight Attacker, and my drugs are +1 leadership. The Warlord trait for the Space Marines is Hero of the Imperium, so everybody within 12 inches of Khan gets to reroll failed morale and leadership tests. I think that's it. Right, my Grotesquerie rolled Rage. They're ragey. And Dark Eldar did deploy first because Jason forced me to go first. And will the Space Marines attempt to seize? No. They are not attempting to seize. They want the Dark Eldar to make the first move. Jason, good game.
Good luck.
And we're moving on to Dark Eldar. Literally just Dark Eldar. I'm excited. Turn 1. Okay, turn 1 for the Dark Eldar. Both units of Reaver Jetbikes have turbo boosted into the flank here to threaten the Scorpius. I had this Obsec Venom with Cabalite Warriors, boost near that objective. This Obsec Venom boosted up towards the center, but he dropped off his Cabalites here. This Raider immobilized itself getting onto that little piece of terrain and failed to do any damage. I shot 4 Haywire Blasters and 3 Disintegrator Cannons at that Land Speeder, and I did 0 hull points thanks to some good cover saves, while this Ravager failed to do any damage on this Rhino. And last but not least, I have obsected that objective here with that Venom as well for the Cabalites, and that objective is obsected as well. So the way this objective works is if you have more objectives than your opponent at the bottom of the game turn, at the top of the game turn, then you get a point. So that's how that works. So you have to kind of control objectives for 3 turns in a row in order to win. Okay, 2 drop pods are arriving. Don't know which they are yet, but we're moving on to turn 1 for the Space Marines. Okay, Space Marine turn 1. We had these Reaver jet bikes lose 1 model to bolt pistols and fail their morale test. These Electro Priests killed the 3 Reaver jet bikes over here. I failed 4 2+ Jink saves. And then here, we had this Raider survive with 2 hull points from the Scorpion, and but the Space Marines have succeeded in objective securing that objective, taking that objective, and forcing this unit, killing the Venom, and that Cabalite Warrior failed his morale. So they have 3 objectives to 2, which means the Space Marines gain 1 point towards the sudden death primary mission. And they also get first strike and marked for death. We're moving on to turn 2 for the Dark Eldar. I have reserve rolls to make. So I have a unit of Cabalite Warriors arriving from reserve. They arrive. I have a Lamian arriving from reserve. She does not arrive. I have the Heat Lancers deep striking. They arrive. And I have the Cabalite Trueborn deep striking. They do not arrive. Turn 2. We had this Cabalite Warrior unit come in, kill 4 of the command squad with rapid fire, and then the remaining disintegrated cannon killed the last members. Then we had this grotesque unit charge in with rage, fail to do any hull points on that land speeder. But in this combat, I did wreck that Rhino, and they are now pinned thanks to the Arm of Misery and Freakish Spectacle at -3 leadership. My Haywire Blasters once again only did 1 hull point on that Rhino. And deep striking in the backfield, we had the Heat Lances right here that destroyed the Scorpius with a very daring deep strike and only lost 1 of their number in the explosion. These Reaver jet bikes rallied and got within 3 inches of that objective, and combined shooting saw 4 of the scouts die. The last member failed his morale test and ran off the table. So we're moving on to Space Marine turn 2. We have reserves. We have a tactical unit outflanking that's supposed to try and show up. And it does. And we have a unit of drop pod destroyers. That does not show up. So the outflanking do arrive. Lost 2 models in the big Cavalry unit, and they ran away. Lost 1 model in the Reaver jet bike unit, and they failed their morale test again. These Electro Priests nuked that small unit of Scourge while Khan just jibber-jabbered around. This unit was pinned, and they did knock out the Venom, and this unit in here knocked out that Raider with a Grav Cannon, while the Landspeeder Storm moved up to capture that objective in the middle again. And the outflanking Space Marines are coming in the backfield here. And we still have a drop pod with the destroyers ignoring cover, arriving from reserve. And it's going on to turn 3, and the Space Marines have 2 points. They just need 1 more point in order to win by sudden death. So, the primary mission. So let's move on to Dark Eldar, turn 3, and do the Trueborn arrive? They do. And does the Lamian arrive? She does not. Okay, moving on to the next turn. 3 for the Dark Eldar. I had these grotesque charge over to this Rhino, wreck it. These tactical Marines are pinned. I had the deep striking Raider with the Blaster Born kill Khan, who had separated from his unit previously, and this big unit with the Archon murdered this entire tactical unit, and they have consolidated towards objective number 2, while the Scourge joined up with the Homunculus to give them a furious charge on turn 3, and they jumped over, charged in after shooting, and did 1 hull point on the Landspeeder, finally able to kill the Landspeeder. And then the Ravager failed to do any damage against that Rhino that outflanked, while I kind of bubble wrapped that objective to prevent a drop bomb from landing on it. And yeah, that's it. We're moving on to turn 3. It could be the end of the primary mission, as you know, the Space Marines are trying to get their primary objectives. And let's see if the unit arrives from reserve. It does not, which will make this into a very interesting game. Okay, turn 3. So the Electro Priest charged in, killed a Grotesque, but I killed 6 of the Electro Priests. There's 2 Grotesques left with a couple of wounds in there. This Raider got moved, but he was a little closer. So this is contested here. The Space Marines have taken this objective. The jet bike has died. I have taken this objective because he wasn't able to do anything here. And then I have this objective as well, while this tactical unit contested this objective, which means that I have 1 point to my primary mission. My Lamian arrives turn 4. That means his drop pod will arrive next turn. But we shall see what happens in this fateful turn 4. Okay, so turn 4 for the Dark Eldar. We had the Grotesque charge in, only kill 1 in combat, and they hit and ran back here because they're White Scars. I got my Lamian in to move and run here. And the Scourge and the Ravager killed that Rhino, and the Venom on top of this building here ended up killing 3 out of 5, and they fell back. Other than that, I did kill the Electro Priest finally, and they've consolidated, and I did It Will Not Die thanks to the Power from Pain from the Come Book. 1 wound on this Grotesque here. So we're moving on to turn 4. There's a drop pod full of cool, big Cult Mechanicus guys coming in to try and stem the tide of battle. We're moving on to turn 4 for the Imperium. Turn 4 for the Imperium. This objective has been captured by the White Scars. The Lamian has died to the shooting from the Mechanicum. This Mechanicum unit dropped down to capture that objective with objective secured, and they immobilized the Venom that subsequently got blown up by the Melter Gun, and this unit of Cabalite Warriors stayed true and has not moved anywhere. So, that objective is contested. I have this objective here. This objective is Jason's. This objective is Jason's. This objective is mine. So we have 2 to 2. No one gets any points this turn, and we're moving on to the the bottom of turn 5. Top of turn 5. Could be the end of the game of the turn 5. Let's see what happens. Okay, turn 5 for the Dark Kin. I tried to charge into the destroyers with the Archon, and he failed miserably. But he did. They took 2 wounds from the Super Flamers. I charged in and killed the tactical unit with the Zealot Grotesquerie, and I tried to kill that drop pod, and I failed. I've been making my preferred enemy target with the Archon, and then the Trueborn failed to do any damage. Well, it's got 1 hull point left. And then the Scourge jumped over, charged in, killed 1 Marine. The final Marine ran away. They didn't catch him. He fell off the table with a 12-inch fallback, and my Cabalite Warriors are hiding behind a wall. And we're moving on to the end of turn 5. Let's see what the Imperium musters. If the game doesn't continue, the Space Marines will win primary because he has 2 points and I have 1 point. But if the game continues, it could go badly for the Space Marines. So let's see what happens in these final moments. It's a very tight, very close game. This is the end of turn 5, Space Marines. The Haywire charged in, wrecked a Raider, and then we had these destroyers wreck another Raider, bring the total kill point number 12 to 12, which ties kill points. We had the Grotesque unit with the Archon have nothing happen to it. Tertiary objectives, Jason has First Strike, Marked for Death, and Linebreaker, and I have Marked for Death, Warlord and Conqueror and Linebreaker, so it ties us on tertiaries, which then means that primary is 1 point to the Dark Eldar, 2 points to the Space Marines. If the game continues, we will then draw primary, and we have to see if it goes on to turn 7. If the game ends right now, everything is drawn, and then Jason wins on primaries. Okay, Jason, I will let you roll. Does the game continue? It is over! Fantastic game, sir. Any last comments?
Like always, it was a very close game. Came down to the wire. I started off really good, and then you really came back hard it's never easy against you, so I figured it was going to happen at some point. I got lucky with early game with some good rolls. Made a dumb mistake over here a couple turns ago, but it was a really good game like usual.
Yeah, it was a really fun game. Make sure you stay tuned for the Tactical Corner, as I played only Dark Eldar stuff, and it was really fun. I haven't played only Dark Eldar in a while. So make sure you stay tuned with the pictures. Check the Patreon page if you haven't supported the channel financially and you'd like to see more content like this, please do. We have a contest going on for July, for the end of July, and some t-shirt giveaways to be doing as well. So make sure you check that out. This is Skari, your grateful host. Thanks a lot for tuning in to yet another fun battle report here in the Beats Laboratory. Skari, out. Hello and welcome to another Tactical Corner. Today I played a game against White Scars with an army that was purely Dark Eldar in nature. I have not done this in a while, and it was very nice to just play the true kin without any allied help. Now, I did have a Coven formation, the Grotesquerie, that is, in my opinion, one of the best formations out of the Coven book, making grotesques grotesquely good. Now, Jason was playing his White Scars Space Marines. It's a very nasty list that has quite a few combinations of units that in conjunction with each other are a very hard-hitting list. He's been playing with the same list for quite some time. This gives him a distinct advantage knowing the capabilities of his army in every sort of scenario and in every sort of mission. And Jason played to his strengths quite well. The mission itself was very interesting. It forced both Jason and myself to play to the mission from turn 1, which meant that him and I were fighting for position at the various objectives with different units throughout the entirety of the game itself. There were a couple of key moments in the game. The first key moment was when I failed to put an objective secured unit at the objective in the center of the table. This allowed Jason to get a point early on in the game, and therefore ended up meaning he won later in the game rather than us drawing or me winning. So this crucial mistake, I should have moved that Venom down into the middle instead of boosting it up towards those ruins where the Venom ended up getting immobilized and destroyed. Now, Jason's Electro Priests were probably one of his MVPs. Together with the Khan, it is a unit that is quite good in close combat as well as shooting against lightly armored targets like Eldar, Dark Eldar, tanks, and low toughness models. The Grotesques ended up having to split up, but they were really pulling the weight in terms of damage against the enemy, as well as me having to pressure the objectives with objectives secured units that therefore allowed me to later take on the different objectives in the game. Now, kill points is one of the toughest things for Dark Eldar to play with. That is something that I knew I was going to have a tough time with, and luckily enough, Jason's heavy hitters, the destroyers, did not arrive until turn 4. Had that unit arrived turn 2 or 3, I feel the game would have swung quickly in Jason's favor, and it wouldn't have allowed me to pull back as far as I did. Sadly, the game did end on turn 5 when I was starting to get the upper hand, but that is how the game happened. I really appreciate you guys watching, liking, subscribing, and checking out the links below to other content or to support the Patreon on channel so you can support the channel. This is Skari, out. Thank you for watching and see you next time.